Black Ops 6's maps are AI generated, and once you realize how I figured it out, you'll never be able to unsee it. The first time I attempted this video, I got the most cooked comment section I think I've ever seen on a video I've posted ever. It was actually unbelievable how down bad the defenders of this franchise actually were. I can sum up the critical comments in two ways. The first was just people saying that asking ChatGPT is not proof, and what is bro talking about brain rot comments with absolutely no evidence backing them. One thing these two types of commenters have in common is that they both did not watch the entire video. It was 18 minutes long, and something that long really pushes the attention span of someone who still plays and defends Call of Duty. And so, I've decided to do them a favor. I'm taking my case and subtracting about 10 minutes from it. And guess what? It still makes way more sense than the opposing side, and it is quite silly to try to dispute it. I don't have much more time before these guys leave a hate comment and click away again, so let's dive right in, shall we? First order of business. Yes, God forbid I actually used an AI for my research. And the reason I did that is because AI is very adept at recognizing patterns that are indicative of AI generation. I didn't ask ChatGPT if the maps were AI, and then it said yes and I released a video. Are we serious? I used ChatGPT's analysis of the map layouts and design as a way to see if there were any telltale signs of AI being possibly used to design these maps. Because obviously, what better way to identify some patterns than by using the thing itself that I'm looking for? And I didn't even ask a broad question. I asked ChatGPT to rank Black Ops 6's maps from least to most likely to be AI generated, to give me a percentage chance, and then give the reason why in a simple table. And it gave me this, a full table of every map and which ones are most likely to be AI generated. Not that are AI generated, just ones that contain patterns that are indicative of AI design. Now don't let me lose you here. Don't let that TikTok brain click off. Here, I'll throw in a meme just for fun. Now, what are all these traits indicative of AI design, you ask? Well, there are four main ones that this AI looks for in order to identify the work of other AI. Symmetry, deliberate three-lane design, a central kill box, or a middle area with the most angles and the most engagements to make it the most combat-dense area on the map, and the repetition of layouts, structures, patterns, and lanes. The reason these things are used to identify the work of AI is that AI classically, when asked to design maps, over-optimizes maps for flow and combat steadiness, and because of that, they end up symmetrical with 3 lanes and with repeating structures to give the map an even flow across the board. However, this removes the clear humanity from the design of the maps. Maps like Raid, Nuketown, Firing Range, and Hijacked have some repetition and symmetry, but they are changed up and differentiated and clearly human influenced because they are not overly optimized maps. Another good way to look at it is that it's incredibly difficult to drop a super high kill streak in Black Ops 6, and it's way easier to do it in an older game with maps like Black Ops 2. But the reason is because an optimized combat flow means that you're staring at a 1KD optimized experience, and that goes hand in hand with the matchmaking. But I digress. Another telltale sign of AI generation is the fact that maps end up smaller than average because the environments are simpler and more optimized for a steady, fast-paced flow of combat. Further, with the climate of the media world, with TikTok and Instagram Reels ruling over people's attention, the average attention span is decreasing rapidly, and there is an unmistakable inclination to cater the faster spurts of dopamine that the population has become accustomed to. Sorry, I said a lot of words there. Basically, Activision is aware that players' brains are rotted by other things. They have to compete with other things that give people dopamine, and so the game is insanely fast-paced. Now, let's not also forget that these maps are undeniably super claustrophobic and incredibly fast-paced because of that. But there's one more detail that we're missing here, and I believe it's a map that these maps are modeled after, and that map is none other than Shipment, the map with 16 different iterations since its debut. Shipment's explosion in popularity in Modern Warfare 2019 was obviously due to its constant action and small size, and this map is pretty symmetrical, has 3 lanes, a cross shape in the middle, a central kill box, and a lot of repetitive assets and structures to aid in the theming, cover, and flow the map has. And not to mention, it exploded in popularity once TikTok did as well. We were also locked in our houses a lot in 2020, and people were watching a lot more TikTok and a lot more short-form content for that quick dopamine. And this map, because of that climate, became insanely popular. But let's notice something about this list that ChatGPT gave me. I asked it to be super impartial and just judge objectively based on what it notices alone. The top 5 maps that are most likely to be created by AI in the analysis of an AI are Babylon, Racket, Subsonic, Pit, and Vault. This is how it defines each group of maps. We're looking at the 60 to 70% range because those are the ones it says are the most likely to be AI generated. Let's pull up the images here. Already, we notice something is incredibly off. Even without ChatGPT defining exactly why it has selected those maps, we can instantly tell why it did. They all follow the same pattern and by extension pattern could potentially have been created by an AI following the same prompt. But the insane part is right here. Look how fundamentally similar these maps are to each other. Each one is symmetrical, has 3 lanes, has a central kill box, has repetitively placed areas called prefabs, and repetitive cover. And the top 2 maps, Babylon and Racket, look an awful lot like they were modeled after shipment, especially due to the cross-shaped middle design. But the reason I bring this up is because all 5 of these maps have glaringly similar attributes. Whereas if I bring up Black Ops 2's maps, none of them have a striking resemblance to one another. Even maps with obvious symmetry and a central kill box have very little in common with each other, despite similar patterns being followed. And obviously in 2012, AI didn't exist. For those that say that you can make AI agree with you regardless of what you're saying, here's what happened when I asked about Black Ops 2's maps in the same original thread as my last video, and it obviously denied that AI made anything because AI didn't exist at that time. But if we look at the maps that it ranked that follow the same patterns, like symmetry, 3 lanes, and a central kill box, and repetitive structures, we only really get a handful of maps in Black Ops 2 that fulfill this criteria. ChatGPT says it's absolutely easier to tell that these maps are human-made in comparison to Black Ops 6's maps because they have human quirks, like a non-symmetrical layout, a great sense of atmosphere, the lack of an optimized uniform flow, and the bold creative choices of certain maps that prove that human beings were venturing outside of what was thought to be conventional map design. ChatGPT then says it feels like Black Ops 6's maps are AI generated because of how repetitive and similar each map feels. And this is an AI talking, by the way. Every Black Ops 2 map with symmetry, a central kill box, 3 lanes, and repetitive structures are these: Hijacked, Nuketown, Express, Slums, and Raid. And even then, the similarities these maps have to each other, and even maps like Shipment, are non-existent. Each map has its own flair, theme, character, quirks, and flow, and as a result, it's instantly recognizable as human-made. Whereas the most suspect AI-generated maps in Black Ops 6 are these: Vault, Subsonic Pit, Babylon, and Racket. We instantly notice how condemning this evidence is. Look how similar these maps are to each other. They're all essentially square or slightly rectangular maps unless you count Pit, which is literally the same awkward shape cut and pasted twice. They all have an obvious central kill box, sometimes even the cross pattern in the middle like Shipment, and they all have insanely obvious copy and pasted structures. The top half of Subsonic is virtually identical for both sides. Racket is a mirror of itself, so is Pit, and Babylon just changes up either side but has a central kill box and a square design, which mimics the nature of the other maps. The difference from Hijacked to Nuketown is massive, despite them exhibiting the same basic ideas and patterns, but the difference from Babylon to Racket is really not that major. In fact, a large selection of Black Ops 6's maps all play the same. Kill once, die once, super fast engagements. You throw an Omni movement in the deliberate fast pace of the game, and you start to see that the game was literally optimized to be brain rot. Every game is just play outside or go in the middle and get killed. My point is that these maps seem like they're following the exact same prompt and the same exact idea. Make a map that is optimized for the best flow, that is as engaging as Shipment, but with a different overall layout. And it spits out small maps that are all different, but with extremely obvious similarities that produce the exact same type of gameplay. There's absolutely no variety. You can play them all the same. Just like you can play Hijacked and Nuketown super differently from each other, in Black Ops 6, you really can't change up your gameplay that much. Each map's overall structure is more or less the same idea and follows the same flow. Let's observe the maps at the bottom of the list. This AI really can't detect any AI-influenced patterns at all: Derelict, Vorkuta, Protocol, Lowtown, and Heirloom. Notice first off that hardly any of these maps follow any of the patterns we were searching for previously, and the best part is that mainly these maps share no glaring similarities to one another. They're all different shapes, different sizes, differently themed, and the layouts are super weird and absolutely not optimized. They're oversized even. But the most striking part is revealed when you remember that we are literally used as guinea pigs to test engagement metrics without our knowledge, hence Activision changing the matchmaking without us knowing to see how it affects the player population instead of just telling us what the heck is going on. But it's impossible to track engagement without a control group, so it seems entirely logical to release a game with only a fraction of AI designed maps and the rest of the maps being the control group being human designed, to be able to compare metrics between the highly optimized AI maps and the weirdly shaped human made maps. This is why we have maps that are so claustrophobic and fast paced that play the exact same, and then some curveball weird weird and large maps like Lowtown, Red Card, Protocol, Dealership, Rewind, and Derelict that are more like Modern Warfare 2019 maps in the sense that they're not highly optimized and also not conventional COD maps. And then we introduce classic maps like Firing Range, Nuketown, and Hacienda into the mix, create 24/7 playlists for these maps, and then see which maps drive higher engagement rates. Now, I'm not saying this absolutely guarantees that every map in the game is completely and totally AI generated. I'm just saying that with this amount of evidence suggesting that at least a portion of the maps were largely influenced by AI in order to create exactly optimized maps for player engagement, it becomes really difficult to deny it, especially when you consider Activision's clear obsession with player engagement and measuring metrics. If they could create the perfect map that never gets old, they absolutely would, and I'm sure they're working on it as we speak. If you were trying to build a case that stacks against mine, I believe you wouldn't just have enough evidence to hold it up. With how the maps look compared to each other, compared to legacy maps, then comparing the least likely maps to be designed by AI, it becomes abundantly clear that an AI had its hand in making these maps as optimized as possible for maximum brain rottage. And I'm not just saying that because ChatGPT told me. I've deduced it based on pattern recognition and using some quite simple logic and how Activision has been behaving for the last 6 years. I'm Prime Pete. Stay safe out there. Play games made by actual human beings, please. Stop scrolling, it's bad for you. And take it easy.